Mess up my signal here. Sorry.
You're live.
Really? All right. I'm tuning off a bunch of stuff while we're live. Welcome in, everybody, to Sportsbook Confessions, trying to make sure that this stream doesn't get blocked because of me. I'm Brady Tinker at DFW Sportsbeat alongside my good friend Jeffrey Dawson at EC Sports Invest. Our NFL season is down to the Super Bowl, the division championship games, NFC and AFC championship games. One was good, one was not. An injury changes everything these days in the NFL. We'll get to the NBA and some NCAA games as well. How are you, Jeffrey? I'm getting over 4 days worth of ice here in Dallas, which, as you know, we don't do well with.
Yeah, we're getting ready for Antarctica, Lambeau Field. We're preparing as we speak. Saturday morning, we're going to wake up and with wind chills of 25, 30, 40 below zero, and it's going to be ugly. I know this. My gas tank is filled. My antifreeze is fine. I'm going to warm the car up, get to the office, and I'm not leaving. I'm going to watch some college basketball all day, all night Saturday, and hopefully get back home sometime early Sunday morning.
Yeah, this is Dallas. I mean, this started Sunday a little bit like you knew it was coming. I went downtown to the office on Monday, and by noon, everyone's like, everyone's got to go. Everyone's got to go. And I was just like, I was born and raised in Kansas City. This ain't going to be that big a deal. But I'll tell you, by 1:30, it was raining big sheets of ice. And the temperature dropped to 24, 25 degrees, and you knew it was going to be brutal. And it was just one big coverage of ice. But normally it's a day. You know, by midday the next day, we get to 40 and everything's gone. That was Monday. It was Monday. It was Tuesday. It was Wednesday, and now here we are on Thursday, and we're getting maybe a little bit of a thaw now. Although there's ice, most of the smaller areas, everything in the huge open areas is finally melting a little bit. But the smaller areas and the places where the homes are in tight is still very, very slick. You can't go to your post office box or get the dog or anything else. But we'll get over it. We'll get over it. As did San Francisco is going to get over losing to Philly. I was disappointed in Brock Purdy getting hurt. I anticipated Philly winning the game. I think we both did. That was 4.5 for Philly and over and under at 47.5. We both thought maybe the over was coming in that game, and that even though those were two great defenses, we would see some points. And it's kind of over at halftime, 21-7 at halftime. I had no idea that backup quarterback had been on 13 teams. Did you? They put him in. I'm like, I never heard of this guy. You know, he must be 22 years old. Instead, he's 42, and he's played on every team in the league. Embarrassingly, I have no idea who that guy was, but he gave it his best.
You know, I talked about how much I love Championship Sunday, the AFC, NFC, the four best teams were the four best teams that were in.
They were.
And all lathered up to see a great first game, and then right out of the rip, Brock Purdy gets hurt. Yeah. You were hoping for some hope. You could see right away that Josh Johnson was going to have a hard time moving the ball. And then next thing you know, he gets hurt, and now they're scrambling. Is it going to be the fullback? Is it going to be McCaffrey? And then in the third quarter, here comes Brock Purdy, which the Eagles D knew he couldn't throw the ball. And, you know, Shanahan's trying every double reverse, triple reverse. Here, McCaffrey, you throw it this time. Debo, you throw it. But I think what is not really being focused enough on is I heard a stat today, Brady, that Jalen Hurts has thrown for 171 yards in the playoffs right now. And he had a play down the right side, A.J. Brown, for an easy 50, 55-yard touchdown and wasn't even close. I know he's got another 2 weeks to hopefully heal. But as much as we want to talk about the MASH unit called Kansas City right now, which we're going to get into, Jalen Hurts is not healthy. He is not healthy right now.
Yeah, it's interesting, too. You know, I went back and looked, and I'm like, when did Jalen Hurts get into a game where he had to throw and run combo and really, you know, well, as you look, for the most part, they ran the ball so wonderfully all year with a combination of him sort of being the lead threat, and then Sanders and Gainwell and everybody else, Boston Scott, everybody who touched the football at one point or another was impactful in most games. They had a couple of games where they ran for 300 yards. They had 6 or 8 where they ran for 200. So everything sort of begins and ends there. But then they have 2 really good wide receivers and a tight end, and another Quez Watkins is fast, and they can beat you in so many ways. But I went looking for Jalen's series of games, or games where Jalen really stepped up and had to throw the football. What if he gets into that sort of a game? And they didn't lose hardly at all. So, but there hasn't been really all that many. So, and the injury, I think maybe their timing is a little bit off. But I'll tell you, it's such a deep team. They are so deep. Defensively, they're so deep. They're a lot what the Cowboys wish they were, and that they're so deep defensively, and then they're deep on the offensive line. That offensive line is so good that Jalen Hurts doesn't have to be Mahomes to win this game and to win the Super Bowl. He probably has to make a couple of throws. If he can make, the throw he missed to AJ Brown was pretty bad. He's wide open. That's man-to-man with no safety. I mean, you just got to throw that ball a little bit higher and let him catch it. But this will be a hard game for the Chiefs. I do think that. And by the way, Josh Johnson, just because I was a dick and I didn't mean to be, although I'm good at it. Tampa Bay, 4 years. Cleveland, Cincinnati, San Francisco, Buffalo, the Giants, Houston, Washington, Detroit, San Francisco again, Baltimore, and San Francisco again. Listen, anybody who makes it to the NFL and plays for that many teams obviously is smart and understands how to play the game of football. So kudos to Josh Johnson, and I'm sorry that he got hurt as well. And I apologize because I've been around these athletes and they're all phenomenal. Even the ones who don't play very much are phenomenal. So anyway, apologies for that. But I don't know, the Philadelphia team is pretty scary. They really are if you're a Chiefs fan, and I am. The Philadelphia team is pretty scary.
What did you just say a minute and a half ago? Do you want me to replay the tape?
You said apologizing to Josh Johnson and his family.
No, you said Jalen Hurts is probably going to have to make a few throws. Being a Chiefs fan, this should just be flashbacks of the San Francisco game a few years ago, because the fact that San Fran was dictating for 3 quarters, and what happened in the fourth quarter? Jimmy G needed to make a couple throws and wasn't able to. Pat, pulls a rabbit out of his hat on that, running back and forth and then just throwing it up 55 yards and Tyreek underneath. And we've talked about no Tyreek and what does that mean? Listen, I'm not taking anything away from the Philadelphia Eagles.
No.
And when we dissect the numbers on what happened at the Circa as soon as the Chiefs beat the Bengals, because it's phenomenal what happened, and to where it is today and how we approach it here at ECSI, you're going to sit back and being a Chiefs fan, I think by the end of this conversation, I think you're going to understand where I'm coming from.
Okay. Well, it's interesting too. It's been a while since Philadelphia had to play a really good game. I almost, if I was a Philadelphia fan, I almost think, well, there's a stat that most of us know now that maybe won't come into play quite as much, and that was teams that played the San Francisco 49ers this year were 0-15 the following week. So now San Francisco was still physical throughout most of that game, probably at least through 3 quarters, but it wasn't the same game because it wasn't an intense, close-fought game that everybody was playing physically and with a whole bunch of tension. There wasn't a lot of tension on the Philadelphia side. They didn't have to do much. 121 yards passing for Hurts. They ran for 40 yards as a team divided between 4 guys. Their defense stepped up, and there just wasn't a whole lot on the offensive side from San Francisco. So I don't know what kind of momentum they have, and I don't know about that Hurts injury. Something's not quite right. I agree with that. That's a pretty easy throw he missed to AJ. And the other thing that surprised me about it was AJ hadn't done anything in the divisional game. So as a bettor and as a guy who knows how these things go with a talent like AJ, who, as I understand it, was pitching some in the divisional game as well, you knew they were coming to him. You knew AJ was going to make a play. AJ was a good parlay bet in some manner, right? Whether it was long catch, touchdown catch, total catches, yards, whatever it was, because San Francisco also gives up yards. We knew that, right? They didn't give up points, but they gave up yards. So there was something coming there for AJ, and he's going to be open. They run the right play at exactly the right time with no safety, and he misses him by 3 or 4 yards, which was definitely, eye-opening. On the other hand, I haven't watched Jalen Hurts all year. Every time I turn the damn TV on, he's thrown for 225 and 2 touchdowns, and he's run for 108 and 2 more, and no one can get in front of them or keep track of them. So I haven't watched him to say, well, he's precise with this offense, et cetera. This offense an offshoot of the San Francisco offense. Everything that happens with this offense is done with power, winning at the line of scrimmage, and running the football. And then a lot of the other stuff is easier. And Hurts even takes it to another level because he can run. Jimmy G can't run. Purdy can't run. So, it's interesting. I also looked at a lot of games with Philadelphia and thought, they won a bunch of different games a bunch of different ways this year because they were down quickly 14-0 against Jacksonville in week 4 or 5 and erased that and came back and won that game. That may have been on the road. So I've seen some variations from them. This should be a good Super Bowl. I hope Mahomes is close to 100%. Kelsey as well. You didn't want to hear the things that I was saying at 3 Chiefs wide receivers who left the game who can't come back to go for a chance to go to the Super Bowl. I mean, I wasn't in the locker room. What do I know? Could have been broken leg, broken sternum for all I know, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't. And I can't believe if I'm the third wide receiver, if I can walk, I'm going back out there and just running routes as a decoy, if nothing else, because I'm not leaving the hurt quarterback on one leg and the tight end with the bad back out there by himself. But 3 guys left. I don't know I was like, where to go? Where'd everyone go?
It was hilarious because egg on my face on one of my fantasy teams way back in August. I drafted Kadarius Toney because he fell to me, and I'm just waiting. And then he has one superstar game, and then he can't play for 5 weeks. And Giants said, we've had enough. So he gets his second lease on life, comes over to the Chiefs, has an amazing game, his first game there. And next thing you know, he's going to take another month off. Well, he's ready to play. And here's the funny. ECSI gives out first touchdown scored in that Kansas City Bengal game, Kadarius Toney plus 1,900. And what happens? He's got the ball, and does he have it? Does he not have it? And of course, they rule it incomplete. They challenge it. And I think if they called it complete, they were going to call him down on the half-yard line because his knee came down. So now the next possession, he throws him a pass and he plants his foot and he limps off to the field. I, and every Chief fan knew he wasn't coming back. And then next thing you know, Hardman's not coming back.
Well, that one didn't surprise me. He'd had an abdomen issue. There had been eyeballs rolling back in heads for 5 weeks over that. And he thought he was going to play 5 weeks ago. So he finally works his way back. We're just overjoyed that McColl can finally play. And he catches the ball in the middle of the field where he gets tackled right on his abdomen. And he's standing down. I'm like, he's done. I know he's done. He's been out for 8 weeks fucking putting Band-Aids on his fucking stomach. So I know he's done. And all my Giants fans had told me about Toney when we traded for him. They're like, get ready. He don't play. He doesn't play.
I don't understand the Juju thing.
That's the one I want to know about. Okay, those two didn't even really surprise me. They just disappointed me. And they'll disappoint me again in the Super Bowl when they're out mid-first quarter. But where the hell did Juju go? Juju limped off. I don't give a shit. Give him a shot, take that shit up, and get back on the field and run your little slant routes. I don't even care if you catch any. God.
And then MVS. It was comical. You had Kelsey out there in 2 clouds of dust, and you had a quarterback on one ankle. I'm just going to throw a little salt on the wound here because I was saying, okay, that first game was so bad. I was expecting a great game. It was a good game. Unfortunately, and when you talk about a Super Bowl against the Bucs, the first thing that comes out that you thought is the refs took it away from you in that first half there.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were probably going to lose that game, but 3 pass interference penalties in the first quarter and a half that put Tom at the 5-yard line. Even the press at halftime was like, maybe the officials need to shut the fuck up for just a second. It was over.
And in the second half, I mean, listen, again, you just had that feeling in your stomach that Burrow was going to will his way to victory here.
Sure.
And unfortunately, listen, the last flag was definitely a flag. Mahomes was out of bounds, but the egregious part was Cincinnati punting the ball dead center right in the middle of the field, but the clear block in the back. I mean, you never would have got up for that field goal. It would have been overtime. They would have had to use their new rule finally. It's each team gets a possession no matter what happens on the first one. So if you came down and got a touchdown, the Bengals had a chance to match you. So, but it's done. It's over. We got the Super Bowl. And where I wanted to go with this, Brady, listen, I respect the Circa. The Circa is the mecca to me in Vegas. Yeah. They're as sharp as they get locally. Well, the game's over. And Mr. Metcalf, Mr. Benson and company released Kansas City -2.5. Okay. That was the opening line. And of their first 25 bets, well-respected, we're not talking $25, $50 players. We're talking 5 dimes, 10, big numbers. Of the first 25 bets, 22 of them were on the Eagles. So Kansas City went from 2.5 to 2 to 1.5 to 1 to a pick 'em to Philly -1, 1.5, 2 till they finally started getting some Kansas City money. Now it sits right now at the circa Philly -1.5 with an under-over of 50.5.
It feels right. And I didn't even know that whole line that you just said. That feels right to me. And you and I talked about this. You were on this. That initial lines pre-AFC NFC Championship game was NFC is going to be -2, which surprised a lot of people. A lot of people I was reading online, oh, how is Kansas City not favored? I'm like, I don't know. I'm kind of paying attention. The Chiefs defense was excellent in that game against Cincinnati. Tip of the hat to them. I was really happy for Pat playing on one leg and throwing for 325 and not throwing any picks. The unfortunate flaming fumble where the ball just flies out of his hand also had to do with the foot, right? Because normally on that fast throw, he throws it off his right foot and pushes. Instead, he's leaning kind of in the middle because he doesn't want to push, and it goes flying like a little kid holding a huge ball. But I thought he was terrific. I thought that was really a gutsy game. And, Cincinnati's games that they won against Kansas City, they ran the ball. We didn't want to tackle P. Ryan. Mixon gets what he wants, I guess sometimes at gunpoint. And what did I say? I didn't even hear anything. Burrow was the leading yard gainer rushing in that game for 30 yards. P. Ryan 5 for 22. And Mixon 8 for 19. So tip of the hat to a Chiefs defense that isn't known for stopping the run, isn't known for necessarily tackling. And they played a good game. They really did. They'll be ready. This will be a hard game for them to win, but I anticipate this will be a close game. I really do. The Chiefs have been here. You know what I mean? They're 1-1 in 2 Super Bowls, and they've been to 5 AFC Championship games. They've lost some heartbreakers and won some close games. They've been here. This is new for Philadelphia, and there's something to that. And I don't know if it's going to work out that their coach trying to do the best he can, I guess, to stay out of his players' ways, except that he can't stop talking either. He's got a lot of really good players, and the offense seems to be really well run, and he probably just needs to let them play. So we'll see if any of his antics work against him and how he does heads up. I saw somebody the other day say they thought coaching was an advantage to the Eagles. Can't imagine how that's the case, but I'm mostly thinking head coach to head coach, right? An overall game plan. I'm not breaking down every single coach. So
what you're a stat guy. What's Andy's record off of a bye week?
It's 46-11 or something like that.
Something stupid. Yeah. It's like Bill Belichickian.
Yeah.
And even better. Yeah. And you did say that Philly, a team's playing San Francisco the next week. We're 0-15 too.
But your thought is, if you're quick and on social media, it ain't the next week; it's the week after the next week. So they have had the extra week to get by. But I was really rooting for that. I was rooting for a slugfest, San Francisco Philly against 2 really physical teams at the point of attack. I mean, really impressive both those teams are, and we didn't quite get it, but it'll be interesting. I was happy with the outcome. Obviously, 2 touchdowns, no picks from Mahomes. I know he was in pain. Kelsey played in pain and scored the first touchdown. So that was pretty good for the Chiefs. We'll see. Philadelphia just hasn't seemed to have. I went back and looked and charted all this, and I left my notes somewhere, but they haven't played a really tough game in a while, especially with everyone present. Right? Christmas Eve, they lost to the Cowboys, but that was with Gardner Minshew, who threw for like 360 yards in that game. But the Cowboys sold out to try and slow the run down, which worked and won that game. But it's been a while since Philadelphia and their full complement of players played in a game against a really good team where they got everybody's best. Not their fault. I mean, Purdy got hurt. They didn't have a quarterback, but it's been a while. The Giants weren't nearly up to the task. And I guess I shouldn't poo-poo that game. The Giants had really finished the season very, very well and played good football. And they were a physical team, and they got absolutely lambasted by Philadelphia. So I may be overlooking that game.
I think, we're going to break this down on next Thursday. We won't tip our full hand here. But listen, anyone that watches me, watches us, understands what I try to preach. It's the public remembers what they saw last, okay? Yep. And it's trust and respect the opening number, because Vegas is trying to tell you a story with that opening number. It's our job here to win, grin, and profit. And our goal is to cash that ticket at the end of this and provide the happy ending. So again, what did people remember last about the Cincinnati and the Kansas City game? Well, that since the Kansas City has no healthy wide receivers and they got a quarterback on one ankle. Meanwhile, Philly's winning 38-7 and 38-7. So they're going to run. There's only one way that number could have went. 2.5, 2, 1.5, 1, then Philly favorites. Yeah. So you're going to see a totally different Chiefs team in 2 weeks. These guys are going to be shot up. They're going to be jacked up. They're going to be with the quarterback. Then now this is his third one, a chance to go 2-1 and say, hey, Tom, thanks for retiring because I'm coming for you. Okay. So I'm going to be here for the next 10, 12, 15 years. This is not my first or last rodeo. So start counting the rings because I'm coming. Okay.
It's a legacy game for him too. And for Andy, as good as they've been, if he wins this game, he's won 2 of the last, 3 or 4 Super Bowls. They've been to 3 of them. So all of a sudden, this is pretty impressive stuff. This is a chance for him to roll on. And with Sean Payton coming to the division and the Chargers maybe getting better because of their offensive coordinator, although maybe. The Eagles haven't seen an offense like this in a beat-up San Francisco team and a Giants team. And then the week before that, the Giants, and the week before that, New Orleans. So they haven't played a good offense in a while. The Christmas Eve game, Dallas was pretty good, but again, they didn't have their quarterback. Then Bears before that, and the Giants again, for God's sakes. And then Tennessee, and then Green Bay, and I'm pretty sure Rodgers didn't play in that game. It was a Jordan Love game. And Indianapolis before that. I mean, Washington before that. Stop me. Houston before that. Pittsburgh before that. Line them up. Murderers Row has not played the Philadelphia Eagles offensively.
What do they have in common? List those quarterbacks. You know what this reminds me of? And I'm not poo-pooing the Eagles guys.
No.
Okay? I'm not.
No.
And the funny thing is, though, this is like a bowl game from, and I'm not saying Philly's a Big Ten team. I'm not saying that there may be a Big 12 team, and you're facing an SEC team of Georgia, meaning what they have underneath the engine. Okay. And you haven't seen their true running game. And hats off to Cincy. I thought to be a bigger game from McKinnon.
Me too.
And
Me too.
He was nowhere to be found. Okay.
Pacheco too. I mean, Pacheco had one big run.
The key to success in this game simply is you've been there, Kansas City. You got to get out early. And a perfect scenario for Philly is Mahomes gets hurt, and here in comes Chad Henne. So you face Daniel Jones, you face Brock Purdy, Josh Johnson, and you close the year against Chad Henne. Give him the Super Bowl. God bless you. We'll see you next year. But I can't see that script.
No, this will be interesting. It really will. It's going to be a great game. Let's look ahead. Philly at Kansas City. What is it? Is it 1.5 now?
Yeah, it's 1.5 and 50 and a hook.
All right, so we'll get back to that. Let's did we talk about Cowboys things and coaching changes, the things that have been done here in other teams? What else have we seen? I've been happy to see for the NFL all the changes already being made. Sean Payton, Denver's going for it, so I guess I'm good with that, right? And
second choice, Brady.
Yeah,
that wasn't their first choice.
That's what I understand. Boy, that seems strange. If that's really true, he was your second choice, and yet you gave up what's almost left of the rest of the draft picks you have for the next 3 years. I mean, the truth is they don't have any draft picks. So and that's a pretty good defense on its shell. We'll see who they get back. And he thinks he can get Russell straight and get Russell into something that's more systematic like he had in Seattle. I'll buy that too, and he's a good coach. But, man, Denver's given up. I mean, they don't have hardly a draft pick for 3 years.
They went second choice last year. Rodgers was their first choice. Rodgers went back to Green Bay, so they settled for Russ. And their choice was the new Houston Texans coach. That was their first choice. He said, I'm going to go to Houston. So they settled for Sean Payton. And you know a little more about that, obviously, that if the Dallas would have lost to the Bucs, that maybe Jerry would have picked up the phone. Maybe. But you also talked about the fact that you knew what was coming with Kellen Moore. And so you're more tied in there. But I think Denver had to do that because, again, you got Herbert, you got Mahomes, You got to do something. Russell showed a little life the last 4 weeks. Bring back a healthy wide receivers, bring back Javonte Williams, bring back a real coach. And I think you're cooking with Crisco. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, no doubt. So Dallas does pretty much what I thought they would do. Kellen Moore isn't brought back officially, I guess not fired. It's a agreed upon thing. What we thought we knew, and that was Kellen probably wasn't coming back, but they didn't want to fire him too soon because he was interviewing for at least one job that he really almost got in Carolina. So they were being kind to him. He quickly gets another job and is with the Chargers, and maybe that helps them. It's a stay of execution as far as I'm concerned for their head coach, who I'm not a fan of his work necessarily. I think the Chargers should have been better the last 2 years than they were. Just my opinion. But so the Cowboys are going to run with Mike McCarthy, which is the right idea. And the Cowboys need to do sort of what we were talking about with these two offenses really in San Francisco and Philadelphia. And that is Dak Prescott really is only good or very good when the running game is excellent. So it'll be interesting to see what they do in the offseason, because everyone's like, well, we're definitely short a wide receiver. I'll agree with that. Michael Gallup wasn't very good. But when Dak has to be forced to throw the football with no running game, once Pollard was done in that game, they were probably done. So they've got things to figure out, but they're going to become, I believe, continue sort of where this season started when the injury happened to him. And that was, we are now a defense-first operation who runs the ball, punts the ball, and takes care of the football. I think that's kind of more where they're going to go. And they're going to go more West Coast, which is what Mike knows. And they're going to run the ball more. And they're going to run more, 2, 3, and 4 tight end sets, which they did several times this year. And that will make it simpler and more navigatable, if that's a word, for Dak Prescott, as opposed to getting outside the pocket and having to get through, read 1, 2, what happened to 3, where's the safety? You can sort of see things spinning. 8 years in, this probably doesn't get a whole lot better. It'd be interesting to see. The quarterback coach, Nussmeier, is gone too. So it'll be interesting to see what other voice they could bring in who would sit in film sessions with him and get this stuff to slow down in Dak Prescott's brain. Because there are some games where you can see he's taking his time. He's breathing. He's not walking up to the left guard who's also blocking, the pass rusher and getting sacked and bailing on the pocket too soon, and all those things that seem to come and go with him. So the Cowboys don't really have much choice. Financially, it looks like what they're going to do is extend him, and which will spread out a ton of money. He's owed $47 next year and $51 the year after that. I mean, they can't do it. They might as well just take a gun and shoot themselves. So they're going to extend him 4, 5, 6 more years and have this be a 10-year payout over X amount of time. They'll write him a big check now, which can be amortized out over the full 10 years. And all of a sudden the Cowboys will have $32 million in salary cap space, which they're going to need because they've got some free agents they need to bring back. And certainly they need to do something at running back and at wide receiver. And I'm not rooting for them to do something in either one of those cases early in the draft. I think if you're going to be a physical team, then the offensive line still needs depth and help. And certainly the defense could use a cornerback because we saw 2 of them leave. And I'd like to see another pass rusher, depending on what happens there. And someone else impactful to go along with Micah Parsons would sort of identify who this team is. And so whatever, sign. I think the Chiefs, the Cowboys, and 3 other teams ought to try and sign DeAndre Hopkins, to be honest with you. It's roughly 18.5 a year for the next 2 years. Not as fast as he was, but he does catch everything. He does run good routes. And if you're a team trying to win, that's Dak Prescott needs that guy and exactly to where he's supposed to be, and he catches the football. And I'm sure Mahomes would love him as well. But if I was using the draft, it would be on athletes, fast, strong, big athletes on somewhere on the offensive line, the defensive side of the ball for the Cowboys.
No, I agree. And the only downside that I see with that approach, in my eyes, outside looking in, is how long is Pollard going to be out? Is he going to be ready for camp, number one?
I don't think there's any assumption they're signing Pollard. I think people here believe he's getting between 8 and 12 for 3 for 36, 4 for 48 with $35-40 million guaranteed. And I don't think the Cowboys feel like at this point that they can sign that. Plus, what happens around here is that they take a wound that everybody knew was going to happen, i.e. Michael Gallup. Personally love Michael Gallup. I'm telling you, the time I've spent with him, the radio shows, kindest, nicest kid in the world, as humble as he can possibly be. But the bottom line is Michael Gallup, since high school, has been the hurt guy. He was the hurt guy at junior college somewhere in the middle of Kansas. He was the hurt guy as he came out of Colorado State. He's had a couple of surgeries since he's been here in Dallas. He doesn't mend all that quickly. Everybody mends at a different rate. When he gets back, it generally takes him X number of games before he's all the way back. Again, everybody gets over ACLs and MCLs as they do. But, they paid him coming off an ACL, his second, that they knew about. The truth is, it's 4 or 5 of them. So that will be in the pain category of, are we paying Tony Pollard, who we know will be in his 5th year? Do you ever pay a 5th-year running back anymore? Granted, not a lot of touches, right? Not a lot of touches in his first 4 years. But a 5th-year running back who coming off an injury. And they've got a pain point now from just having paid Gallup. And so I've seen how things work around here. I don't anticipate, if he gets paid a reasonable wage, that he's back here. Zeke says he'll take a major pay cut to come back. And at this point, Zeke full note is roughly $14, $15, $16 million next year, which he knows is ridiculous. I mean, he'd have to take some version of $1.5 million, to be honest with you, because they're going to owe a little bit when they cut him, right? I think they can clear 13 of that off their books, but they end up paying 3.5 as just part of the pain for cutting him post June 1st, I think. So they're probably going to be without a running back when the season starts, or when the off season starts.
Yeah, I'm not comparing Zeke to Emmett, but I would do this. Listen, I've seen enough. Maybe because Pollard looked that much more sharper, that much more quicker, that much more explosive. I ain't paying Zeke anything. If you got to, we talked kiddingly about the kid from Texas coming out, and there's going to be a lot of buzz there. A lot of buzz.
Yeah, but he's not making it to 26. I mean, he's a top 10 or 15 pick.
Well, when was the last time a running back got drafted? Don't forget the Jets came back and grabbed Breece Hall.
There were no first round picks last year, right?
No. Yeah. And look at the CEH for you in Kansas City a few years prior. Yeah. The fact of the matter is, as he starts to slide, Jerry's going to start getting that whoop, and he's like, oh, look at he slide.
Well, if Bijan Robinson, as I sit here now, slides to 26 or slides in the 20s and the Cowboys can move up and get him, I'm okay with that, because he catches the ball beautifully too. So you know what? Sign him. You'll end up having to pay him for 5 years. He'll be done at the end of 5 years. But if the plan is what we just said it was, which is we're basically going to play defense and run the football, and you can get Bijan Robinson at 20-something, whatever, if they got to move up 3 or 4 picks, then I'm all for that. I think he's a phenomenal player. I really do.
And it makes all the sense. He's
clearly the best running back.
It makes all the sense, because you don't want to go in and pay Pollard off of an injury. You don't need to pay Emmett/Zeke anymore. You bring the kid in, and you got him for 3, 4, 5 years, however long it is. And then you can get a running back off the scrap heap, and then you can still draft one late if you had to. That makes a lot more sense than, is Pollard healthy? Is he not healthy? Thanks, Zeke, for the memories, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does. The only hard part about any of that now is, in today's NFL, after his 3rd year, he's going to hold out, because we won't want to go to his 4th. You know what I mean? We know what's coming. So that's the other decision you got to make is, all right, we're going to go after this for 3 more years. Jerry may not make it. Nothing physically wrong with Jerry as far as I know, but Jerry's old and worn himself out physically and mentally and everything else. So who knows, how long so it's an every year thing for him right now. And Cowboys fans are fine with that, but that'll be the decision. If you draft Bijan, you may lose him after 3 years, because he's going to want whatever, right? An additional 4 years and whatever that number is then, $40 million a year. I don't think any NFL now or in the coming future is going to pay a running back from years 3 through 8 $40 million a year. So those are tough decisions that you look at for any team, really.
No, but you look at the landscape last year. Breece Hall looked phenomenal. Look at Kenneth Walker. It's not you're picking that far back, and it's if he starts to slide, you really got to start to say, how am I going to put these pieces together? And that would, even though it's a first rounder, I get that. And the running backs haven't been going in the first round. But if you're picking that far back and he's sliding, I think he makes it a lot easier. I'm not calling him Ricky Williams or Earl Campbell, but this kid's got the skills to pay the bills.
He does indeed. He does indeed. Be very interesting stuff. All right, let's look at NCAA hoops, my friend. And I pulled some unusual ones out here. So I don't know if you did your studying. But we wanted to go for Friday, right? We're taping late enough, or we're airing live here late enough on Thursday night. Really couldn't get anything but maybe a late game. That wouldn't give anybody a chance. So we pulled some Friday games. I found someone that I like. Air Force at Nevada. You got me?
I got you. I'm going to see. I should be able to pull up some numbers here for you. So
all right. Air Force at Nevada. I got it. Is 11.5. Nevada's 11.5 point home favorite, over and under 132. Air Force has lost 4 straight, now on the road to Nevada. The Wolfpack are pretty good, 17-6 and 11-0 at home for Nevada. So certainly a clear favorite, 11.5, and 132 is a pretty spiffy college game. What say you, sir?
Nevada, I use Ken Palm as one of our resources here at East Coast Sports Investors. Nevada right now, 51st on Ken Palm. Air Force 158. Nevada comes in at 17-6. Ken Palm has it 72-60 final. As you said, Nevada is pretty good this year. 6 losses in conference, 7-3. Lost to San Diego State, lost to Boise State, lost to UNLV. Going up here, they beat Air Force already, only by 6 on the road. So you come into this game. I got them. Our numbers 11.5 with a 133. Obviously, expect Nevada to win. If you want my honest 2 cents, I think the number's a little low, enticing us to Nevada. So today, for all the people watching and listening, I say Nevada wins, but doesn't cover the 11.5.
Very good. Boise State at San Diego State. San Diego State -6.5, over and under. I had at 143. Boise State won all 3 games last year against San Diego State, and they are hot coming in, winning 8 of their last 9. But San Diego State has a deep team. That's the thing I went looking for. Is what am I looking for here? San Diego State runs 9 to 10 guys on the field. Boise State really plays in a tight 6-man rotation. So San Diego State 11-1 at home as well, though. So we'll see. Boise's not very deep. I like San Diego State here, 6.5. You tell me, what do the numbers line up as?
My overnight numbers: San Diego State 7.5 with a 133.
Right,
at DraftKings right now, 7 with a 134. Ken Palm has San Diego State ranked 28th. It has Boise State at 25. They have it 68-66, San Diego State. So the way I read this, it's an inflated number. They're looking for Boise State money. For me tonight, overnight, I'm going to take San Diego State. Hopefully it goes down to 6. I think they get the win, and then they also cover the 6 points. Brady.
Seems like the under is pretty nice right there, too. That under has come tumbling. I had it at 143 this morning. Now I got it, but Sportsline or somewhere else. I don't know where I got it. But anyway, that number's tumbling right there, too. But still at 132, that number's probably a little inflated, too, huh?
Yeah, I have a corrected number of 134 right now. Our numbers are 133, so they're going to find that happy medium. So Ken Palm's got it 68-66, so they got it right at 134 as well.
Okay. All right. Eastern Michigan at Ball State. Ball State at home, a 12.5-point favorite. 152.5 seems like a game I want to watch. This clash out of the MAC. Ball State 15-7 versus 6-16 Eastern Michigan State. But wait for it. Michigan State has won 2 straight. One more, as the manager from the movie Big League would say, and we have a winning streak. They call that a winning streak. I can't remember his name, but I sure liked him. Bates is hot, scored 43 last week for Ball State, averaging right at 20. Scored 29 straight points. I love that guy. I watched this thing online. I'm like, who is this kid? His name is Imoni Bates. And I found a video, and I'm like, oh my, it says he scored 29 straight. I'm like, well, that's a typo. He didn't score 29 straight. He did. He scored 29 straight points in a game just in the last week and a half against Toledo. 29. I got 29. The rest of you fuckers running around out here playing defense don't have any. But thanks for getting some rebounds. Imoni Bates, hot. He's hot.
Our overnight numbers are 11 with a 153 and a hook. At DraftKings right now, 11.5, 151.5. On Ken Palm, Ball State ranked 153. Emu, 316. right now. Let me see if they did play each other before. No, they have not. 15-7 with a 6-3 conference record. Ken Palm 83-70, so they got him winning by 13 with a 153 there. I think on a Friday, the MAC, it's a beer and pizza. Let's go play the over. Let's go play some schoolyard ball, and then just let your boy go and score 29 straight.
Yeah, but now remember, that's Eastern Michigan. Imoni Bates is Eastern Michigan.
Correct. So he'll score 29 straight, and Ball State will put up 50 in between, So look for a high-scoring affair there. I think that gets up and over the number, Brady.
You do. All right. Well, what about Ball State covering, even with Imoni Bates scoring 36 straight?
I got an 11. I got an 11. So
okay.
On our numbers, Ken Palm's at 13. I say we meet in the middle at 12. How's that sound?
All right. This show single-handedly bringing the over and under down. Cornell at Princeton. Good game here. And the thing that stood out for me is last time I watched Ivy League basketball, which was probably at Vegas at an NCAA tournament, maybe there was a team in, was a long time ago. And this number is Princeton by 2.5 at home, so that's almost a push. 157.5 this morning when I woke up for an Ivy League game. The Big Red of Cornell scoring some damn points against Princeton, who whipped Yale in their last game. So, I don't know.
Princeton
157.5, though, I kind of want to watch.
Well, I got Princeton 112 per Ken Palm, Cornell 102.
Oh.
Princeton has beaten Cornell at Cornell 75-68. Now at home, Ken Palm has it 81-79. They got it at 160, sir. My overnight numbers are 4 with a 159. Right now at DraftKings, 2.5 with a 157.5. I think they're going to take the dog here. Cornell looking for the sweep. Actually, no, they're looking for
I went looking on this, Jeff, too. You'll like this. Cornell, as we stand here now, has the second highest tempo in college hoops. So they're getting up and down the floor more often than almost any team in all the NCAAs. There's your high number. They are cutting it loose.
Absolutely. They want to get up and down like greyhounds. And just spot on, Mr. Tinker. Hats off to you, because the Ivy League is known for books, and more books. Enjoy some good hockey in the Ivy League. Harvard will be right where I am behind me on Monday for the annual Bean Pot. And but we got some little action going on here. I think it's going to go over, Brady. I'm going to follow the Ken Palm here. They got it at 160. Let's go over the number.
I agree, because, see, Cornell was held to 68 in that first game, but they have averaged 91 a game in the last 4. Cornell got it cranking. The Big Red. I'm backing the Big Red to pump this game up. I don't think they're going to win, but I'm backing them to get this game to the over along with you. NBA hoops, a couple of Friday night games. Suns at Celtics. Celtics are a 10-point home favorite, 226.5. Excuse me, the Celtics are a 10-point home favorite. This is at Boston. Celtics minus 10, 226.5 is what I had this morning. And I don't know if Devin Booker's going to play in this game. So there's a little caution flag for everyone. He's on the trip, as I understand, or he's going to go on this East Coast trip, but I'm not sure when he's going to play. And just a quick observation, the Suns have not been the same since they played the Mavericks in the playoffs. And in game 1, Devin Booker knocked down my little point guard that went to New York. Jalen Brunson, who tried to take a charge, and Booker stood over him and yelled at him and said, "You're in our way." And from that point on, the Suns, who are anything but intimidating, with Chris Paul on the sidelines a whole lot, rolled over and played dead with the Mavericks and haven't been the same since, by the way, just by the by. Boston 139-96 win over the Nets on Wednesday is relatively impressive. They are clicking, not just their 2 best players, but they are clicking. Beat Phoenix by 27 last time they played on December 7th. If any of that stuff matters to you, the big thing is Booker playing, right?
In my notes right now, the only one that I have listed as doubtful is Marcus Smart, which it'd be smart for him to sit out. They're all set without him. The Celtics, such an impressive win 2 nights ago, last night, whenever it was. I think they're up by 30 at the end of the first quarter. They are on a roll. And in the futures market, they're plus 350 to win it all. The next closest is like 600 or 650. So they've separated themselves from the rest of the field. My overnight number, Brady, is only 9.5 right now with a 226. On DraftKings, a 225 with a 9.5. I think the Suns find a way on one of those lazy Friday nights. Celtics living off their laurels. And don't forget, that butt whooping that Phoenix took was at Phoenix. And now they get a little revenge. So I like Phoenix to cover the 9 and a hook. And with the 225 after they just scored 1,000 points, I like it to go under the 225, Brady.
So Booker plays. I'm with you on that. And Booker's having a very good year statistically, by the way. He's playing very good basketball, and he's a good player. I love the Celtics number to win it all. It's a long season. They're deep. They got a lot of really good players. That's a 9 deep, no problem. All 9 of you are playing team, playing at a very high level in the East.
Well, and it's funny you say that because Mr. Pritchard's getting a little upset with his playing time. A kid that's played a few years. He's been on the bench. He can shoot once he walks into the gym, but he's not getting enough ink. He's not getting enough this. So he's starting to squeak a little. So it'll be interesting come All-Star break. Hey, kid, do you want to win a championship? If not, why don't you go grab the 12th to 13th spot on the bench, will you?
Portland at Washington is also Friday night, sort of just because Damian Lillard's playing good. Washington is actually -4 at home. Lillard, a smooth 42, 10, and 8 in Wednesday's impressive win over Memphis. Back-to-back 40-point games for him. And sometimes you have ones on a team, and when they score 40-some, their teams aren't always winning, right? They're just having to sort of put it on their own shoulders. Really not that way with Portland. When he plays really well, they generally win. The Wizards have won 6 straight. 6 straight. Now, that's impressive in its own right, but it's sort of stunning when you realize that they were supposed to play Wednesday and the game got postponed because of this weather front. That is 6 games in a row is the Wizards' longest winning streak since 2015.
I have a 4 as well as you do. I don't have any notes. The only notes that I have on this game right now is that Jamari Grant is questionable with a concussion for Portland.
Yes, they lost Grant and, the Euro. That's a good player on Wednesday night. So I don't know where those guys are as well. So find that out tomorrow if you're making a bet on this game.
Yeah, it's a short number. We're still waiting for a lot more information. I have a 3.5 at one spot. It's 4. I think it's a Portland number, so keep an eye on who's playing, who's not playing. But I lean the dog here with Portland.
Okay. Very good. Well, this was sort of all over the place show, but I had a good time. Hope you did.
Always
interesting stuff. Interesting stuff with this Super Bowl. I think there's so much to talk about and break down. I'm also really intrigued by everything that's already happening in the NFL. And boy, the NFL, the officiating was a little hurtful in both those games. I think they need to do better, but I may have made a point of that in the last 5 years. But the NFL is some kind of league because the bottom line is the minute the regular season is open and the coaching carousel starts and all of a sudden you're looking at who's going to be a free agent. I mean, if you're covering one of these teams, especially one of the prominent teams, it's a year-round job. It's a year-round league. It's the best league for multiple reasons.
Goodell and the NFL has really tried to stretch this into a full year event where they wanted to get the Super Bowl even later. And then what happens is it takes it right to the combines and then the draft. And then, as you said, you got free agency in between, you got the coaching carousel. So you're always talking NFL and it's free advertising, free publicity. And I'm going to say this. I don't get into the drama game. I don't get into the ref game. I try to stay far, far, far away. With that said, and it's just my 2 cents, not like they're listening. We tried the instant replay, the review, the challenge flags. When you're talking about catch, making a move, when you're talking about, there's too many variables. I would like to, and I know they'll never do this, obviously, but I would like to just scrap it. They're paying the referees. These guys are so fast, as you talk about. When you're trying to run down the field and concentrate, these athletes and try to keep up, make the play. You're paid to make the play. The delays, the call into New York, enough's enough here. Just let the boys play.
Well, and you can, if you think about any of this stuff for very long, it will frustrate you, because the touchdown that we saw in the AFC or the Chiefs game, I guess it was, where he catches the ball, he's in the end zone, he's got the ball right here, hovering a foot off the ground, and then loses control of the ball after he hits the ground. But a quarterback can do this and reach the ball over the goal line and have it knocked like a tennis shot back 15 feet behind him, and it doesn't make any difference. He broke the plane with the ball. So did the wide receiver. Yeah. This whole catch the ball through the ground as he falls out of bounds or as he goes in the end zone makes no sense, because then we also know the ground can't cause a fumble. Which fucking is it? And I'm with you. If you can't visibly see what happened, then I'm good with it being what it was. And I also hate the idea, the notion of I've got the ball and I've caught the ball, and as I fall out of bounds, the ball moves a little bit along my chest. Did I drop it? If I didn't drop it and I'm laying there on the ground and I'm still holding it, then I caught it. In every game that you and I would have played when we were 8 years old out by the pecan trees, if I'm still catching it and it didn't hit the ground, then it's a catch. Now, I'm not saying that even makes sense, because maybe if you bobbled it, maybe officially you didn't control it before you went out of bounds. On the other hand, I don't give a shit. I really don't. I think taking away from skill position players and taking away from points on the board in these leagues is the wrong thing, left and right. And having someone explain to the three people who are already in the booth what happened or what didn't happen, it's annoying, and it does take away from their game. I swear I've said this before. I watched a Cincinnati game not too long ago. It was like from 1982. And maybe Boomer was quarterback, and he threw a little button hooker out to a tight end who caught the ball, put it in his chest like this, got pounded from behind. The ball went flying in the air. The other team recovered it. Nobody said a damn thing. It was a catch, obviously. A brutal hit. The ball came out, and it was a fumble, and we went the other direction. No one said anything. But today, that certainly wouldn't have been a catch, because he didn't make a football move or call someone or it's all ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And I don't really understand the point.
And the funny thing is, not that it would have mattered, but go back to the first drive that the Eagles had when was it Devontae Smith makes that miraculous catch on fourth down, and then he does this, and he's basically telling the team, let's go. And as I was watching this live, I'm like, hey, he's hurrying up here. He's telling the team here he didn't catch that. They run the play, and it was the first drive. Shanahan's probably saying, I'm not going to waste it. He caught the ball. Well, of course, they slow it down. They see the ball move.
Right. But that's the other thing, too, is that was all the reason they got away with that is because of the television situation. They went quickly after that touchdown, much quicker than normal, to break. So you didn't get on TV, the rest of us at home didn't get that look until we came back from the commercial break. So what you're saying is, the director and the producer and or the sponsors affected that game as well, because they went very quickly to break, where normally they'd been, oh, wait a minute, let's take a look at that. We'd have gotten 4 looks. We didn't know when we went to break that they were looking at it, and they would have fixed it. But instead, they were gone. They were gone to break. I mean, it worked out perfectly for Philadelphia. Get up here, run the thing. Again, as you said, it's a first half decision. Looks for the first 2 angles like we got. Certainly looked like he caught it. So that's another thing is what else is coming into play in these games with these decisions? Not just officials and 10 different looks, but sponsors.
And the funny thing, Brady, is it was a fourth down play. Therefore, they go up there, for a review anyways. A change of possession, right? That's what have been a change of possession. So it was just comical, and it set the tone. Listen, the 49ers would have had the ball on their own 40 or whatever it was, the 50. Not that it would have changed the game. Maybe Brock would have got hurt. Who the hell knows? But again, they come down, they drive. It's the officials getting in the way. And if you're paying these guys to do a job and you're spending millions upon millions on extra cameras and people in New York and whatever, just let the damn guys play football. That's all.
I agree. Let the athletes be the athletes. I agree with that. And it's funny because you can hear in some of the replays, talking to the replay guy in the booth now, them saying, well, he was there a half a second early on pass interference, but they're trying as best they can to make boom looking plays not be pass interference. And I'm with you, but I want to say, well, if you're heading that direction, then you just need to take all of this away. Right? Because the truth is, it's been so letter of the law for the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years that, I mean, a half a second early is a half a second early, especially when you can close it down and see it. So it either is or it isn't. And as you and I know, in the regular season, there's not the same amount of cameras at every game. It depends on if it's a national game or not. So literally teams might be winning games that end up with a big number of wins that make a difference in home versus road in the playoffs, because there were only 8 or 9 cameras at this game versus 12 at the game of the more popular teams that are on at the more popular times. I mean, all of that stuff is wrong, and it's affecting people's lives, not to mention everyone who's glued to this show who wants to know how to bet. I don't know how to tell them to bet for 8 cameras versus 12.
Well, a good example was for the locals. The Patriots were in Vegas, and that was the Sunday night game. Got flexed, I think, for Washington and Philly, or Washington, the Giants, Washington, Dallas. It was Washington, someone. But the funny thing is, the controversial last touchdown, that if it was the national game, there would have been more cameras. Since it was flexed out, there wasn't as many cameras, and they would have seen the foot on the line. Therefore, the Patriots would have won that game and probably got into the playoffs.
Yep. Messing up their own game. That's the part I don't like. And that's the part I get in arguments with people about. I'm like, I'm not saying you're wrong or whatever. I don't care, but you're hurting your own game. Why are you doing that? It's the best game.
Mm-hmm.
Best game to watch, best game to bet on. It's the best game. It really is. As far as what we do, it's the best game. Jeffrey, very good stuff. Next Thursday, we will get intense, and hopefully everyone's still healthy. So we get to next Thursday. I want everyone on both teams to be healthy. I want both these teams to line up with all the arrogance and talent that both these teams have, and see what happens in this game. I can't wait for that to happen. So I don't know if Mahomes can be 100%, although he moved around a lot better than I thought he was going to against Cincinnati. I'll give him that.
He'll be fine. He'll be fine. We'll have tons of props. I'll try to put together Westgate Superbook. They usually got 450 props. Put together a list of props.
Let's do that. Yeah, that's great.
We'll have some fun. We'll talk Super Bowl, get everyone hyped up. I'll give out my final lean. And, again, I kind of tipped my hand where I know we are. We have, we got ahead of the curve. We had the 49ers at 14-1. We had the Bengals at 13-1. Yep. So I needed some coverage. And we have right now Jalen Hurts plus 650 to win the MVP. And we have Mahomes at plus 400 to win the MVP. We put in a teaser earlier this week. We have the Chiefs plus 8 and over 43.5. So we're covered. We'll do some props. We'll have some fun, and I'll give a final score.
Good. All right. I'll look forward to that. Excellent. I'll do my work. Send me some prop ideas. I'll go do my work. Try and throw in a little bit of humor as we get to this thing. I'm looking forward to it. Have a good week, pal. Off of the helmets, by the way, talking Cowboys and everything that's already happened. For those of you who love the Cowboys or hate them, will be tomorrow. It'll be posted by probably 6 o'clock tomorrow night. Tons to talk about there. The offensive coordinator has changed. He is now the head coach. The defensive coordinator is staying. The offensive coordinator has gone to San Diego. The quarterback coach is gone, and they're going to revamp this Cowboys offense in more of a Mike McCarthy image of what he was used to in Green Bay, except that he has a different quarterback. Talk about all that tomorrow on Off of the Helmets. Look for it on YouTube and at all of the social media channels, probably by 6 o'clock Central tomorrow night. All right, pal.
All right. You have a good night. Get some rest. And to everyone watching and listening, thank you. And behave yourselves. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you next Thursday.